Commissioner Carlson,
Here?
Commissioner Armstrong,
Here.
Commissioner Meadows,
Here.
Commissioner Obringer,
Here.
Chair Kelly. All commissioners present with Chair Kelly absent.
And staff is recommending that we jump to, what item is it? I'm sorry. No, you're good. Item
It's
one?
item number 2, election.
So item number 2, elections. And so with that being said, do we have any nominations for chair and vice chair?
I move Ken Carlson as chair and Carolyn Obringer as vice chair.
I will second that motion.
So do we have any public comment?
Oop, no written, and there are no hands raised.
Okay, perfect. So
Roll call vote.
roll call vote.
Commissioner Armstrong,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner Meadows,
Yes.
Commissioner Obringer,
Yes.
Chair Kelly. Motion passes unanimously with Chair Kelly absent.
All right, well then, we'll pass the gavel to Chair Carlson.
Thank you, Tim. First, we'll start off with, well, thank you for your trust, and I look forward to working diligently together to move things forward within the planning committee. With that, Jackie, can we play the short video?
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organizations, but providing such information is voluntary. Citizens participating in person wishing to speak should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand in Zoom or submit a public speaker card, and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Our next item will be public comment. This is for anyone who would like to speak on anything not specifically on our agenda, but under the purview of this committee. For those that are participating virtually raise your hand. For those that are in person, please submit a speaker card. Do we have any public comment?
No written public comment and no virtual hands raised.
Wonderful. With that, we'll close public comment. We'll move on to item 4, which is our consent calendar. Are there any members who wish to pull any item from the consent calendar?
I don't wish to pull an item, but I will say in the statement of work, if we could get an adjustment to a point of contact that's listed in there for San Ramon. Instead of Robin Bartlett, it's Brian Bornstein, and his phone number is 925-973-2686.
Perfect. With that correction, do we have no other items to pull? No other additions, amendments?
I move approval.
Very good.
I will second that, and I do want to note that I did read the minutes, even though I was not yet a member of this body in December.
Wonderful. With that, is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
No public comment, no hands raised.
Wonderful. We have a first by Meadows, a second by Obringer. May we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Armstrong,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Meadows,
Yes.
Vice Chair Obringer,
Yes.
Chair Carlson,
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Kelly absent.
All right, moving on to our regular agenda items. The first item is the San Pablo Avenue Multimodal Corridor Project. I said that in one breath. That was pretty good. Approval to release request for proposals on Phase 3 of the project. And I believe this is Matt who's going to be presenting.
Thank you, Chair Carlson, and congratulations, Chair and Vice Chair. So today, Matt Kelly, Principal Transportation Planner with the Authority. I'm here today to talk about the San Pablo Avenue Multimodal Corridor Project. It was a study, now it's a project. Because we've got some new members here, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the project. We don't have our West County rep who supports this project immensely, but I'm sure she'll appreciate it in her absence. Anyway, the San Pablo Avenue Multimodal Corridor study started off as a partnership with the Alameda County Transportation Commission back in 2018. They have a new sales tax measure. They were looking for ways to spend that on San Pablo Avenue through their cities between Oakland and Oakland and Albany. We spoke with WICTAC, who covers most of the transportation issues over in West Contra Costa, and decided that the authority should partner with ACTC, contribute some money, and see what we could study on the Contra Costa portion of the corridor, really focused on the first 3 cities there, El Cerrito, Richmond, and San Pablo. And the reason we decided on those limits is that's the limit of AC Transit's service area. So the goals were really to look at ways to add more modes to San Pablo Avenue. As you probably know, San Pablo Avenue serves as kind of a main street through those West County communities. It's mostly vehicle focused. It gets a lot of extra traffic from I-80, people diverting when I-80 is congested. So we found that upwards of 30% of the traffic on San Pablo Avenue has diverted off of 80. They aren't frequenting the businesses. They aren't doing anything in those communities. They're just passing through. So we decided to look at ways that we could maybe get more out of San Pablo Avenue by adding potentially a bike facility, bus facilities, and improving conditions for pedestrians and transit users. So the first phase consisted of really some technical assessments looking at the conditions and what conditions might look like in the future if we leave it alone. Transit speeds would be transit travel times would be doubled, speeds would be cut in half. That's what the future was looking like for transit on the corridor. We also did some outreach at that time, but it was very limited. We did outreach to the businesses in the communities, but it was kind of a light touch at the time because we really didn't have a proposal to move forward. We were just kind of seeing what the temperature was or the appetite was for changes. And from the businesses, there wasn't a lot of appetite for changes to the layout of the street. So now we completed phase 1 back in 2019, 2020. We then moved into phase 2, which really concentrated on the Contra Costa portion. What we found in phase 1 is that San Pablo Avenue fluctuates in width from block to block sometimes. So, in one spot in El Cerrito, you may have 78 feet. In one spot in, 3 blocks down in Richmond, you may have 88 feet. And you can do a whole lot of different things with, 10 feet of extra right-of-way. So we really needed to go through the entire corridor and see what was possible. In terms of the bike facility, we also looked at, if we can't put something on the corridor, could we have a parallel facility? And that's mostly where things ended up is concentrating on a parallel facility. Because even if we were to put a protected facility on San Pablo Avenue, traffic is still moving relatively fast, and there are a lot of bike users who still wouldn't feel comfortable on that. So we looked at some potential alternatives for bus rapid transit, whether it could run on the side or run down the median. We really focused on coming up with safety improvements for, pedestrian scale users at intersections. So what came out of phase 2 was a recommendation that we install safety improvements at 45 intersections throughout the corridor, and then we pursue a BRT pilot, really that we look into BRT in the corridor and really test it out. We thought a pilot might be the right way to do it, but really in talking, we thought before we really talk about how BRT would run in the corridor, we need to get the stakeholders on board. So phase 3 will have some technical components to answer questions that weren't answered in phase 2 related to BRT and the bike facility, but what we really want to focus on is an outreach effort to bring in all the business owners, and we're talking every business owner, like knocking on every business owner's door, but also the stakeholders, whether that's Caltrans, who operates the first mile or so of San Pablo Avenue in the county, to the 3 cities, the transit providers, and anybody else who has a stake in San Pablo Avenue, as well as the community. So we think that's going to be a huge outreach effort. The goal of the outreach effort is to really come up with a vision for the corridor. That vision might look a little bit different in each community. San Pablo, El Cerrito has already done a specific plan for San Pablo Avenue, so they have some very specific goals in mind, whereas Richmond and San Pablo are pretty open. So, we want to come up with a cohesive vision that may have some, nuanced differences as you go down the corridor and those widths change. But what we want to, really daylight is this BRT concept, how comfortable folks would be with that, whether they would have to give up parking or a vehicle lane for that. And as part of that, and a way to sell it to the communities and the stakeholders is by doing an economic analysis of the improvements. And if really, not just, there's things like, well, transit riders, also spend money at local businesses, not just, drivers. That's one thing you have to explain to the business owners. But another thing for the cities to understand is if you were to make these changes, there are very significant impacts to the land value around these improvements that could occur, which affects, a city's bottom line when it comes to tax revenues. So we really want to tell the whole story. We want to be transparent, and we also want to let people know what the benefits would be to the communities along this corridor if they were to implement these improvements. When we release an RFP to the public, or to the consultant community at large, we come to you. This is a good-sized contract. We've asked for $1 million from RM3. Just so you know, this would be fully funded by Regional Measure 3. There is a San Pablo Avenue transit category under RM3. So we'd like to use that, the amount that was allocated in December, to bring on a consultant to do this work. We do have a consultant bench, but we thought this type of project was required some expertise in a number of areas, both BRT, transit planning, and the economic kind of analysis portion. So we decided not to use the bench, but to go out for a new RFP, which is why we've come to you today for your approval. And that would be RFP 25-01, which is what we're asking for your approval to release today. So I can take any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt? No? So, just anecdotally, I mean, do we know, San Pablo Avenue pass-through traffic, is this based on congestion on the freeway? Is just getting down 80 is so challenging, as opposed to continuing down 2 exits, I'll just take San Pablo Avenue and cut through?
I mean, so the goal of the I-80 Smart Corridor project was just what you mentioned, to get people back on the freeway as soon as possible, as soon as they get past the accident or whatever is causing the congestion. As you know, most days there is some level of congestion on I-80, and I think a lot of people have just gotten into the habit of diverting onto San Pablo. Whether they get back on, I'm not sure. They may be going to West Berkeley or something like that and may decide just to stay off, but they're definitely in there through certainly through Richmond and El Cerrito. They take up a big portion of the traffic.
And then do we know, as a BRT versus standard operations of our bus operators, our transit operators, do we see an increase in ridership in the sense of, hey, I'm not gonna have to stop every other block and I'm gonna go 12 blocks or I'm gonna go a longer distance? Does that bring ridership up? Are we anticipating that's gonna be the next?
That's a great question. Our ridership estimates that we did as part of Phase 2 did show ridership increases in the corridor. That was based on travel time and things like that and congestion. I will tell you anecdotally, I just heard this week that AC Transit's, their highest ridership route is the Tempo BRT route down International, whereas it wasn't before the pandemic. So post-pandemic, it is now their highest ridership route. So that is, and we're, because AC Transit would most likely be the operator of a BRT route in West County, we're looking at that Tempo route and what they've done there. Part of the scope is to take stakeholders down that route. We could look at Van Ness BRT in the city, but it's a different animal, I think. I think they're getting good ridership, but yeah, I would say in general, BRT should expand the ridership just due to speed and frequency.
Yeah, and I think, just to follow up on that, I think, this is the first BRT project that we're kind of looking at in Contra Costa County, and the integrated transit plan that we're working on with Sam Schwartz, and we'll be talking more about that at the May board workshop, but we're in the process of finalizing what we're calling like transit priority corridors, and those are going to be corridors, there's 9 of them in the county, and those transit priority corridors would be some similar approaches, in terms of how do we prioritize transit in those corridors, whether that be, BRT or, time of day or, some level of priority, whether that potentially, using a lane for dedicated transit use or doing time of day use of transit use or using transit signal priority. So just looking for opportunities to strategize and how to really make transit more attractive in those specific corridors. But we want to prioritize transit in the corridors that we know are going to be successful, and we're going to get that increased ridership. And you'll, again, I said you'll learn more of that at the May board workshop.
Yeah, I mean, just, I'm really anxious to see what this study shows, because whenever we talk about traffic redesign, the general public get very nervous, you're going to take a lane of traffic away, how are you going to impact, and everybody sees more lanes, better traffic, and we know that's not necessarily always the case. So being able to show that there is the benefit to the changes we're making through increased transit ridership, less cars on your street, customers able to get to your stores, those types of things are really, really what the outcomes should show and what we're really aiming at. So I'm anxious to see that, but again, it's how you get that message to the public, how the public understands that, because I don't want to see, I make fun of Commissioner Nowak because we talk about a road diet. I think road diets are great. They slow people down. They don't necessarily impact traffic wait times. Back then, she didn't see it the same way, but, again, I think we learned a lot by having these conversations.
Yeah, and I think a big part of the scope is, and we heard it loud and clear from the board at the fall workshop last year, is if we're going to consider projects like this, we have to come up with the value proposition.
Right.
And present that value proposition to the board to make sure that the board is comfortable of making those kinds of decisions. But there has to be a value proposition, and I think that's what this next phase of project, doing this economic development analysis, looking at the public outreach, and really understanding what is that value proposition before we really move this project any farther forward.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Carly?
So I had a question about the protected bike facility component, and I had heard you mention, maybe some concerns from business owners, and that got me to thinking about the situation on Valencia Street in San Francisco. So do we anticipate a lot of concern from business owners about a protected bike lane plus BRT? Yeah, I'm just really curious because they've had to walk back or rip out the bike lane, move the bike lane, and people still aren't happy, so.
Don't want to repeat that process.
Right,
But,
right.
yeah, so mostly what we've heard is that parking is, tends to be sacrosanct. And then the next priority, that's from the cities, but the real priority in the corridor is transit. And we even heard from Bike East Bay staff, their director of advocacy at the time, that if you have to choose one mode over the other, and it's really transit versus bikes on San Pablo Avenue. You can't really have both in separate facilities. Bike East Bay was comfortable with transit being the
First,
primary,
okay.
getting the priority in the corridor, because we would be providing this parallel facility and improving conditions for, bike parking on San Pablo Avenue. So you can be within 2 blocks on the parallel facility, or a block even, and then once you get down to the avenue, there's places to park. It's, that's the thought anyway.
Okay, that's helpful, thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other questions?
Do you have a percentage increase of ridership going from now to BRT? I mean, you said there was an increase.
Yeah,
Do you-
there was,
do you have
I
a-
don't have those numbers in
Okay.
front of me, but I can certainly produce them, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else? With that, we'll open it for public comment. Do we have anyone in the room or online?
No written public comment received, and there is no hands raised virtually.
Wonderful. Sorry, looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve the release of the request for proposal for 2501 for Phase 3 of the project.
Second.
All right, we have a first by Armstrong, second by Meadows. Can we take the vote, please?
Commissioner Armstrong?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly? Commissioner Meadows?
Yes.
Vice Chair Obringer?
Yes.
Chair Carlson?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Kelly absent.
Wonderful. We'll move on to item B, which is the Planning Department Work Plan for fiscal year 24-25 status update. And I'm looking to John Long.
Thanks, Chair Carlson. John Huang, Director of Planning. Want to give you an update of our work plan, which we first provided to this committee and the board back in June before the fiscal year. So how time flies, we're like in March now. So a lot of work on this plan, and I actually started working with the team here to put this together to keep us on track and keep the board abreast of what staff is doing. I'm going to highlight just a few of these things, not going over everything, but I may end up going over everything anyways. So the biggest heavy lift that we have here is the countywide transportation plan. As Tim kind of alluded to back in the fall last year, we had a retreat. We're going to have another retreat coming up the end of April, early May. And it's the three products that we're producing here. Is the blueprint that kind of dictates what we're doing for the CTP document itself, and then the business plan that kind of gives CCT direction. And then also, because we're Contra Costa County, we're going to do an EIR, environmental impact report for the CTP. So we expect to have a draft CTP by the late summer of this year. The CBTP, the countywide community-based transportation plan, we actually went out for our RFP and we selected a consultant last month, so we're gonna start this project, this month right now, and, expect it to complete within, next spring. The, State Route 4 Vision Plan, the CSMP, this morning we just had a meeting with our consultant, and now we've vetted all the, reach out all the RTPCs and the agencies and got the inputs back, and now we're ready to finalize the document. The document serves as a document that identifies key projects along that Highway 4 corridor and prioritizes projects and helps the cities and CCTA line up projects for pursuing funding. And that's the CSMP portion of it. The CSMP satisfies the Caltrans requirement for setting us up for funding, future funding. So we will be taking this to the board around all the RTPCs the next several months, and then to the board after that for asking for approval. Number 5, Matt just covered that. The RFP is going to be released as soon as the board is approved it this month. The number 6 is CCTSAT. I love this, Collins. I love this acronym, but this is another countywide project. We try to do a lot of countywide projects that helps the individual city, and this is one example of it. The board actually approved the plan back in December of 24, and again, this enables individual cities to have their projects identified in a plan that would help them pursue HSIP funding and other fundings that are out there. Let's see, I'm just gonna jump down to the broadband strategic plan number 9 here. A lot of work has been put into this, and I presented this to the board at the beginning of the project and haven't really brought it back to the board much at all, but this is a huge project for the county with regards to fiber optics and broadband. This project was funded by the CPUC, California Public Utility Commission, and in this county, CCTA was the only agency that applied for and received, well, the county and city of Pittsburgh applied for the funding, but CCTA was the only agency in the county to receive funding to develop this feasibility study within the county. Now, why did we do that? Because all the ITS, Intelligent Transmission System, all the advanced innovative stuff that we want to do here, it really needs broadband, especially the ID Smart Signals project, really requires broadband to enhance that communication, the bandwidth. So this is our first step that we're doing, at least get our foot in the door with the CPUC, and we're wrapping that up this spring, and we're gonna be meeting with the CPUC actually on Friday to discuss future funding. So there's a lot of money that's coming down through the federal government, through the CPUC, through the county. So this county, there's $16 million out there. And hopefully by conveying to the CPUC that CCTA is the agency to lead this effort, we can at least give us an opportunity to obtain that funding. And then there's also BEAD, which is the broadband EAD, BEAD. So that's another larger pot of money. So and then I hope to bring all this information to this committee and the board in the next several months. So, and to give you all a comprehensive update.
Yeah, and I just want to give John a lot of kudos with this in terms of one, developing the work plan and kind of the leadership behind that, and then 2, I think on the broadband stuff, I mean, John has done an excellent job kind of talking with the stakeholders, talking with the funding partners, and really positioning ourselves well to get that funding into Contra Costa County. And I think John and I are pretty excited about that, and hopeful that we're gonna see some significant funding to start building out this like middle mile broadband network, which is gonna be really important in terms of implementing the countywide smart signal system. And as we get into smarter infrastructure, digitalization, the fiber is gonna be really, really key to the future.
And
And
I
then-
do have a question
Yes.
about that particular topic. So
Yes.
I'm just wondering so I know Concord, and I'm sure other cities too, have a one dig policy. So are we looking to help to install, I mean, where would this installation of the broadband, the fiber, all of that take place? And would this be happening at the same time that there's other work that's happening, so you don't have to cut up the road multiple times?
Yeah, I love the one dig policy. I think San Ramon has one. And I know Concord, I know Concord.
We definitely do
Yeah,
have
you
one.
really have, your broadband plan and implementation has been like kind of, in San Ramon's been really in advance of all the other cities. So definitely leverage that ordinance that, I'm guessing it's an ordinance.
Yes.
Yes, so leverage that, and anytime any utility companies come in there, let's throw an extra conduit in
That's
there.
what
I
we've
mean,
been doing, yeah.
definitely. And then just put the carriage before the horse, I guess, but CCTA, we have the potential to be an ISP and actually a utility. Because if nobody else steps up in the county, we may be in that position. So that's, there's a lot of discussions, a lot of information to come, but right now, I just don't see anybody else in the county that's stepping up. But we do communicate with the county office, the Contra Costa County itself too, so, to help us, go forward with this. So there's a lot of communication with the cities.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know for San Ramon, for some of the cable that we've laid, fiber optic cable, I mean, there's a lot of strings in there.
Yeah.
And we're only using a tiny fraction of that, and so there's a lot of capability that still exists for other people to tap into the future. So we're kind of looking at it as, not just what we need for the immediate present, but also when we put that ITS type cable in, it's looking into the future as well for what it can bring us in the future.
Yes, you can actually lease out those fibers and
Yeah, exactly.
and get some revenue. Yes.
Get some money out of it.
Just continue, let's see what else, I lost my track, I was so excited about that item. It is a very unique project for an agency like this. So, CMP, the monitoring work, so every 2 years we do an update to identify the level of service for intersections and roadway network in the county. So Matt just kind of started that project. We have a consultant on board already. It's a pretty business as usual, where the consultants just go out there and just update that level of service for monitoring purposes only. As far as the CBPP update, in your packet today, you have Collins item where we included additional projects to update the plan there. And then, let's see. And lastly, number 17, I just love this item. This is the emergency evacuation plan. We just finally executed the agreement with Caltrans on February 27th. So they just provided us the executed agreement, and then we were announced, the award was announced back in June of last year. So it took all this time, and I can tell this committee and our board that there's a lot of interest in this project from electeds, from residents, from cities, from communities, and it's going to be a heavy lift, but it's going to be a fun ride. I've been in touch with Contra Costa OES, the sheriffs and the fire departments and the various cities. So I think it's important for the county. And again, this is where I feel CCTA's role, because we're a transportation agency. Evacuation is, utilizes roadway network, and this is how we can work with the cities, and this project will help all the communities. And so next month I'll be bringing an RFP to the board, asking for approval to release the RFP next month.
And
So,
Sean, may I
yes.
ask a question through the chair? So I know that you had presented on this at TransPac.
Yeah.
And so I just had a a question. I know it was asked by myself and
Yeah.
another member. We were just trying to understand the percentage of time spent on what are they called?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, the
economic
underserved communities, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, actually, I talked to your, the representative there, the liaisons.
Okay.
To provide
Okay.
my answers to your questions
Okay,
there.
so I should talk to Abhishek, he's on there. Did you talk to the TAC folks?
I talked to, Tiffany, who.
From,
Yeah.
okay,
But
okay.
I can answer your question today. I can answer
That
that
would be
question.
great, because we are in
Yeah.
a public
So,
meeting.
so I threw out that 50%,
Mm-hmm.
economic priority communities, EPCs,
Mm-hmm.
unserved communities. And I might have misspoken when I presented this, but the Caltrans grant, part of their goal was to provide the funding to at least 50% of the communities throughout the region,
Okay,
right? So when I presented that, I probably didn't do a good job identifying what does it mean for Contra Costa County? So my response now, or clarification now, is the project serves all Contra Costa County, the 19 cities and town, and the county,
And the counties, all
unincorporated
20.
county. As far as breaking that down, as far as the EPC, we have maps that MTC, based on definition, that describes EPCs and underserved communities and all of that. But as far as breaking down the funding serves all communities. There's no breakdown between the communities.
okay, so the overarching Caltrans funding, wherever it went, Contra Costa and others, the 50% of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that big,
Yeah.
the big pot, okay.
Right.
So it wasn't Contra Costa
It wasn't
specific.
Contra Costa.
Okay.
The only reason I want to mention that, because as we were putting the application together, we felt that highlighting all these communities within Contra Costa where there's a need would help our, would help our application.
Yeah, we have a lot of them. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I just think it's good timing in the sense too, as a county, we're looking at improving our community warning system. We're gonna be devoting a lot of time to that this year, coming up with something a little more cohesive or holistic that will better serve our constituents. And I think this is a big part of that when it comes down to it is, you know, in recent incidents, whether they're local or further away, the public is exceptionally concerned about, not only the evacuation routes, but how they're gonna get the information and how they're gonna know when, where, and how. So I think this is really good timing. Anything else, John?
No, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Fine. We'll go to public comment. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No written public comment received, and there are no hands raised.
Wonderful. This is an informational item, so no action is required at this time. With that, we'll move on to item 6. Any correspondence or communications? I have none. All right. Commissioner and staff comments. Thank you. How's that? Any other comments?
I will say the same. I look forward to serving on this committee. I've been hearing for years about the planning committee, but I didn't know exactly what went on here, and now I do.
We're going to indoctrinate you quickly.
Well, I echo the same, I'm pleased to be on the committee, and I look forward to future meetings and being a part of this. Thank you.
Yeah, it's impressive when you look at the work list that we just went over, plus everything else that we're doing here at CCTA. It's a lot to absorb in a very short amount of time and get your feet under you, but it is exciting stuff that we're doing. With that, I'll turn it over to our executive team. Any comments?
Well, if you ever need anything, need any assistance, questions, you know where to find us. We're happy to help and support you every step of the way. Welcome to the committee, welcome to the authority board, and congratulations on your chairmanship, and also vice chair. So look forward to working with you both on the committee as we kind of go walk into this year. As John mentioned, this is a really important year. As I mentioned at the board meeting, 2025 is a big year to kind of plan for our future and start planning for what the next big suite of projects are really going to look like and what we're going to be really focusing on for the next, 25, 30 years. So it's really, really important work. On another note, I wanted to introduce some new staff to all of you. And this time I'm going to start with Erica. So Erica is out in the audience there. Erica Kiernan is our new administrative assistant. She'll be supporting the projects team. And I'll do more formal introduction and maybe roast her a little bit at the board meeting. But she comes to us from the city of Livermore. And Brian says, our CFO says that that Livermore is a very well-run city, and I believe that because Erica is a very, very experienced, seasoned professional, so excited to have her here. But she'll be assisting with all the administrative items around projects, and so she actually worked in the mayor's office at Livermore, so she's got a great deal of experience working with all of you and electeds and everything in terms of helping you and assisting you in anything you need. And then another thing, we talked about the emergency evacuation plan, but she also has experience in developing and implementing training programs around some of those things as well. So it's really great to have Erica on the team, and excited to be working with her. I know the projects team is very excited to have her. And then second, I want to introduce you to Danielle Elkins. Danielle's our new Deputy Executive Director for Planning Programs and Policy. And she has also loads of experience in transportation planning and policy, innovative technologies, data, TDM, a lot of the different things that we're planning and working on in the future. But her experience basically is very national. She's worked in Atlanta, she's worked in Minneapolis. She's also worked both in the private sector and the public sector. So she worked at CH2M Hill for a number of years. So really excited to have her on the team and helping us kind of lead us into the future with this great planning team that we have here, and programs team. So I want to make those introductions to all of you, and we'll probably do a more formal introduction at the board meeting as well, and then lastly on Redefine Mobility Summit, the pieces are starting to come together. Please make sure it's on your calendar, April 22nd. We're gonna have a welcome reception on the day before. I don't anticipate all of you being there, but if you're welcome to be there if you'd like to. But the actual summit, we have 4 great panels, one on future cities and cities of the future. And Danielle actually helped pull that panel together. So we've got some great representations from very innovative cities across the nation. And then we also have kind of a showcase of the workforce development work that we're doing. And we talked a little bit about APC, and you'll hear more about that at the board meeting. And then the other one is on kind of advancements in AI and the intersection of how AI is really going to kind of take autonomous vehicles to the next level or next generation. And then the other panel we have is really focused on innovative transit business models. And so we're going to be looking at that across the country and bringing in some national experts across that. We also have confirmed delegations from Finland, Germany, and Japan that are coming in for the conference. So we're excited about that. And then we will also continue to have our student showcase with partnership with Bay Area Leads. And all the revenues, the entire summit is actually self-funded through sponsorships and tickets. But all the revenues and proceeds actually go to Bay Area Leads to fund STEM programs. So we're also very excited about that. And then lastly, we'll have our demo zone. And then something that's unique, this is our 10th year anniversary for RMS. Something that we're doing is we're going to do a demo day the day afterwards on Wednesday, April 23rd. And we're going to charter some buses, and we're actually going to take all our VIPs and those people who want to sign up, including the board members, basically start at Bishop Ranch and get rides on the Navias, and then go to Rossmore, go to Martinez, and then go out to the new Glideways facility out at Richmond, and then go to Gomentum Station. So it's going to be a full day of just demoing all the great stuff that we're doing here in Contra Costa County, and I know a lot of people are excited about that. So we'll make sure it's on your calendar. You should have April 22nd, I know for sure, on your calendar as a hold, and then we'll get the 23rd on your calendar. The other thing is we did finalize dates for the board workshop, and I will make sure I make that announcement at the board meeting. So that's on May 29th and 30th. It's a Thursday, Friday. And so I know Emily will be shooting that out as a confirmation to all the board. And a big part of that workshop, as John was mentioning earlier, is a continuation of the conversation we had in the fall, really focusing on the CTP, focusing on that kind of big, broad vision of what transportation is going to look like. I think we're finally having pen to paper, and we'll have projects identified and programs, and then also kind of giving you some outcomes and conclusions of the work that's being done through the integrated transit plan will also be discussed. So it'll be a full 2-day workshop at the end of May. And then in the fall, we'll have another workshop, And that'll start focusing on the other piece of the CTP, which is the business plan, which is the big question of how will we fund all of these projects. So that's it. Any other comments from the team?
If you don't mind, I have the answer to Commissioner Meadows' question from earlier, so I just wanted to quickly, I couldn't leave without looking it up. So a typical high-quality BRT line tends to increase ridership by 30 to 35%. When we modeled this particular line, it showed an increase of 35 to 45% over existing ridership.
Wow.
Thank you, Matt. I mean, that's a pretty big increase.
Yep, thanks.
Tim, I think the Redefining Mobility Summit I attended one time was at Bishop Ranch. Is that where it's going to be again this year?
Yeah, my apologies. Yeah, it'll be at Bishop Branch again.
Okay.
Yeah, down in San Ramon. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and most likely we'll be asking you to be welcoming and hosting us. So you'll be on the list of speakers for sure as mayor of San Ramon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Anything else? Well, welcome to both of you. We look forward to, we have such a great team here at CCTA, so you're joining an elite group of individuals who are thoughtful, innovative, and sometimes humorous group of individuals, so. Any other business? I gotta be careful. I just got back from DC, so I'm trying to regain a sense of humor.
I'm heading there.
God bless you. This week will be even worse than last week. Any other business? All right. Well, once again, it's been a pleasure seeing you all. We will adjourn this meeting, and we will see you at our next planning meeting, April 3rd at 1:30 p.m. right here. And we are adjourned at 2:17. How about that?